Born as Adolf Hitler in 1889 in a small town of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, his beginnings were shrouded in contradictions and tragedy that would ultimately shape his destiny. From the very start, Adolf's family history was marked by controversy. His father, Alois Schicklgruber, later known as Alois Hitler after he adopted his stepfather's surname, had a checkered past. Alois was a mid-level customs official, not exceptionally wealthy, yet known for his indulgence in worldly pleasures. He married a wealthy, older woman, but soon began an affair with a much younger maid. A few years later, he abandoned his ailing wife to live with his mistress. However, due to the strict doctrines of the Catholic Church at the time, divorce was not an option, so he waited until his former wife passed away. Soon after, he married the maid and fathered another child. Tragically, his new wife fell ill, and he even hired his younger cousin, Clara, to care for her. When this wife died as well, he wasted no time in making Clara pregnant. His cousin Clara eventually became his wife. In a twisted sequence of events, Alois and Clara had triplets, all of whom tragically died in infancy, and when their fourth child, Adolf, was born, Clara doted on him excessively. The family continued to grow, moving several times, adding more children to an already chaotic household. This turbulent home environment set the stage for a troubled childhood. Adolf was forced to attend 5 different elementary schools due to constant relocations. His father was strict and quick-tempered, often venting his frustrations on the older siblings. When the eldest rebelled and ran away at the age of 14, 7-year-old Adolf was left to bear the brunt of his father's harsh discipline. Despite these challenges, young Adolf performed well in school at first. He was popular among his peers and even enjoyed playing military games with other children. He loved reading, especially tales of cowboys and Native Americans, a fascination that would later hint at his interest in martial heroics. However, as he grew older, his behavior began to change. He got into trouble more frequently, caught smoking, and even organized a small raid on a local fruit orchard. In his early years, he also used symbolic gestures to torment his pro-Austrian religion teacher, acts that hinted at a deep-seated attraction to the idea of uniting the German people under a great German state, a notion that defied the ruling Habsburg influence in Austria. These rebellious acts infuriated his father, who was a staunch Austrian official, further straining their already difficult relationship. Despite the strict control and frequent punishment, Adolf increasingly began to defy everything his father stood for, drifting towards German nationalism, a belief that his father vehemently opposed. During this turbulent time, a personal tragedy struck the family. When Adolf was 10, his beloved 6-year-old brother died of measles, and his burial took place in a cemetery directly across from their home. Neighbors soon noticed a change in the boy. He began engaging in strange behaviors, talking to trees, staring at the cemetery walls late at night, and gazing at the stars above. His once keen interest in religion waned, and his school performance started to decline, much to his father's dismay. Transitioning into high school did little to alleviate his difficulties. New classmates from urban settings treated him as an unsophisticated country boy. As a result, Adolf was forced to repeat his second year of high school, and he lost interest in most academic subjects, spending much of his time reading and drawing, areas where he found solace and showed talent. One day, his father declared, "Son, one day you will become a civil servant with as much power as I have," to which Adolf defiantly replied, "No, father, I will become an artist and soar high above the skies like an eagle." This response enraged his father, though by then the man was already a hardened older figure, so he seemingly let it pass, only to later die of a pulmonary hemorrhage. Adolf, barely finishing his final semester, celebrated in a typically reckless manner, indulging in heavy drinking and reckless behavior, a stark sign of the chaos swirling within him. At the age of 16, instead of taking his final school exams, Adolf simply dropped out, leaving him without a clear direction or ambition. Over the next 3 years, he drifted aimlessly. He spent much of his time frequenting the opera with his only friend, August Kubizek, who would later pen memoirs about young Adolf. Kubizek described him as passionately interested in many things, feeling superior to his peers, quick-tempered like his father, and an incredible orator when angered. When he turned 18 with a heavy heart, he bid farewell to his mother, and left for Vienna to take an entrance exam for an art school, a journey filled with hope that ended in failure. Shortly after returning home, his mother fell gravely ill and her health deteriorated rapidly. Adolf remained by her side until her eventual death. The family doctor later remarked that he had never seen grief consume someone as deeply as it did Adolf in that moment. After his mother's death, Adolf returned to Vienna, still clinging to the hope of building a career in the arts. However, without any financial support from his parents, he soon found himself destitute on the streets by the time he reached his early 20s. He endured several harsh years, sometimes finding shelter in modest facilities and earning a meager income by selling postcards that he drew. It is difficult to pinpoint the exact moment when his radical ideological views began to crystallize, but his years in Vienna undeniably played a pivotal role. Vienna at that time was rife with anti-Semitism. The mayor, whom Adolf admired, was an outspoken anti-Semite, and numerous right-wing anti-Semitic publications circulated throughout the city. Influenced by conspiracy theories and the prevailing sentiment, Adolf came to believe fervently that endless racial conflicts defined the world. In his eyes, the purest were the German Aryans, while he viewed Jews as the lowest of the low, a belief that would later form the basis of his hatred. Unable to tolerate the multi-ethnic makeup of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Adolf eventually moved to Munich in Germany to avoid conscription. For over a year, he wandered the streets as a vagrant until a turning point occurred. In 1914, long-standing tensions in Europe erupted into the First World War. As the news spread across the continent, Adolf enlisted as a volunteer in the German army. The war gave him a sense of purpose, and his comrades provided him with a brotherhood he had long craved. Despite the horrors of battle, Adolf viewed those wartime years as the best period of his life. His bravery was noted, and he was awarded the Iron Cross First Class. Remarkably, he managed to escape death on several occasions. However, his luck eventually ran out in 1916 when shrapnel from an artillery shell injured his leg. Dispatched back to Germany, he was dismayed to see a demoralized, war-weary nation, its people starving, fatigued, and apathetic towards the ongoing conflict. In 1918, as the war turned against Germany, Adolf returned to the front, only to be temporarily blinded by a British gas attack. A month later, while still hospitalized, he learned of Germany's capitulation. The conditions imposed by the subsequent peace treaty placed a tremendous burden on Germany. The nation was forced to pay enormous sums, disband large parts of its military, and surrender territories. These humiliating conditions weakened Germany and left its people resentful and downtrodden. New nations emerged from territories lost to Russia, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed, redrawing the map of Europe. Witnessing his once great country reduced to such a state of humiliation, Adolf's hatred swelled for those he deemed responsible, namely the communists and the Jews, whom he accused of stabbing Germany in the back and spreading anti-war propaganda on the home front. This early chapter in Adolf Hitler's life is a mosaic of personal tragedy, ideological turmoil, and the forging of radical beliefs. It is a stark reminder that even the most infamous figures can be born from a chaotic blend of familial strife, societal collapse, and the unyielding pressures of a tumultuous historical era. As we look back on these events, it is essential to remember that the path to darkness is often paved with the struggles and failures of youth. Hitler's story, though undeniably tragic, serves as a cautionary tale about how personal loss and unfulfilled ambitions can evolve into destructive ideologies. His early life, a mixture of familial dysfunction, academic struggles, and early exposure to radical thought, set the stage for the catastrophic events that would later unfold on a global scale. Thank you for joining us on this journey into one of history's most disturbing and complex stories. If you found this exploration thought-provoking, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more historical analyses, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts on how early life events can shape an individual's destiny.